Welcome to another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous, coming to you 6 days a week as we interview whitetail experts and hear their traditions and personal stories of the hunt. Learn more about the latest gear, discover proven tips, and the latest strategies so you can make your next hunt a success. Now, here's your host, Bruce Hutchin.
Welcome to Whitetail Rendezvous Podcast, episode number 259.
Welcome to another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous. This is Bruce Hutchin, your host, and we're heading out to Wisconsin, and we're going to talk to a good friend, Brian Sparks. Brian owns and operates Nelson Creek Outdoors, the maker of Lucky 7 brand. And like I said in the show yesterday, or the last episode that you heard in introducing Brian, I've used this product last few years, had great success. I love his crystals. That a buck hits the scrape, he steps on the crystals and they open up and refresh the scrape as many times as he hits it, or even a doe hits it. So it's a great attractant. It's great stuff. And Brian works hard. He's a hardworking guy, and this is his love and the passion. So listen to Brian Sparks, Lucky 7 brand. Hey, listeners, don't forget to text 33444 Food Plot for your free Food Plot ebook. Welcome to another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous. This is your host, Bruce Hutchin, and we're heading to the great state of Wisconsin. Hey, sorry, Packer fans, but Minnesota cleaned your clock last night. Wow. And we're going to meet up with Brian Sparks. Brian is the owner of Nelson Creek Outdoors and the formulator of Lucky 7 brands. Hey, Brian, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me there, Bruce.
Well, I was finishing up yesterday's, the next show that's coming up tomorrow, and I did mention you that I hunted 3 different farms in Wisconsin last year, had a lot of bucks come in. I just didn't have a mature buck come in. That was my hunting season. But every time I use those crystal, Lucky 7 crystals, the bucks just went kind of nuts. So let's start off with that. Why do those crystals work, and how should you apply them when you're hunting?
Well, the Lucky 7 Love Potion number 7, and you're talking the crystal gel formula. That is a fresh urine product. We only bottle it during the season. We don't start off with it in January and start bottling and save it till later. I mean, we just literally started bottling that here. We started Sunday actually. So the crystal gel formula it's just a polymer crystal that will absorb many times its weight in liquid. They start off as a tiny little grain of sand and they expand. And what it does is it traps that urine inside that crystal. Now, when you first put it out, when you get to your stand, you put it out, it'll put out a lot of scent. But say you leave your stand or out there for quite some time, the scent will start going down, and that's actually what you want a little bit. The scent will go down a little bit, and that buck will come in and smell that scent, and he'll still smell there's a doe and heat around there somewhere. But the real magic happens when he starts scraping, and you put them crystals in his scrape. He puts his hoof on it there, and he'll actually cut those gel crystals open. He'll disturb that skin that forms on him a little bit, and that fresh scent will come out of those crystals and blast him right in the face. What he believes at that point is, oh my God, I just missed her. And that's what you want him to think. That doe had to have been there just a couple seconds ago, as fresh as that is. And that tends to make him come back and check that scrape more and more often.
And how many times a day or a week do you freshen that?
That stuff, because the way the polymer seals their crystals in there, the urine in that crystal after a while. That stuff will hit him good for a week, maybe more, when he comes in there and it works that scrape. It'll only give off scent, into the normal air for, maybe 4 or 5, 6 hours really strong, and then it'll start weakening off from there. But again, as soon as they step in that scrape or actually actively work that scrape, or a doe walks by and steps through it even, it reactivates it to a much stronger amount. And again, poof, right in their face, right when they're going through it. It really makes them believe it's around there. And like a week or more, it could actually keep doing that.
Now, how much do you recommend putting in, what I'm going to call a hot scrape? How much of the crystal should you put in there?
What I generally like to do there, depending on the size of the scrape and the location, is on average, I probably put about a half an ounce of the product in there, spread throughout the scrape, more toward the center than the edges, and that'll usually be a good amount. It'll have a strong scent, and then again remain active for quite a few days after initial application.
Now, for the listeners, they come in what, 2 or 4 ounces packaging?
Those come in 2 ounces. That's a 2 ounce. Basically, in the crystal gel, it's enough crystals to hold 2 fluid ounces of urine in it, and then the bottled stuff, the straight liquid, we sell in 2 ounce bottles. One of the reasons we do that is fresh urine, as you know, doesn't stay fresh forever. Smaller bottles of it allow you to take just enough of what you need with you. Is, up here in Wisconsin, as you know, here we're hunting right now. Bow season's open, and we're in the high 70s. When you got to take urine out in that kind of weather, it'll go bad. So basically, keep it in 2 ounce bottles. You can keep a couple bottles in the fridge at home and just carry enough with you.
You hit on a couple of things, and we might as well stop right there. Now, in the big box stores, they've got all sorts of an array of, dough and heat and blah, 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 blah. You name it, the marketers have got, dough urine and big buck stopper or whatever. Now, talk to us about the difference that people will find in the big box stores as opposed to what your product offers.
Our product is based around being fresh. We only buy during the season and through the season. We started, like I said, Sunday, and we'll go through, depending on demand, probably late November. Twice a week we'll be bottling it, and we have a contract with a deer farm that they continually ship us fresh urine. We're trying to get urine in your hands that is less than a week old. Ideally, when you get it, it's probably 4 or 5 days old. And you go to that box store, they're a large business and a large volume, and that's what they're looking for, is large volume. They start bottling it early in the year to start making their deliveries in August. In that time, it's in that little amber bottle. It's seeing lights. It's going, basically the urea in the urine is breaking down into more and more ammonia until you literally have nothing but a bunch of black sludge that is 50% ammonia or more in it. At that point, you might as well just throw it in the garbage. It's not even useful. So the difference between us is that we're not looking to, we do some volume here, but we're only doing enough that, that we can supply it fresh. And we're not going to, you're not going to buy a bottle that we bottled last year. Anything that we had left, or we haven't had any left over, but if we had some left over, we'd throw it out. It's just not useful anymore. That's the difference between us and the big box store attractants. It's really good stuff.
Now, you mentioned keeping it in a refrigerator, and I remember you told me, get some of those, little ice packs and actually put it in a little cooler because, I'm gone for 30 days and the mail can't catch up with me. And so you said, well, buy the stuff and then keep it in a cooler and keep it, keep the light out and keep it cold. How long will that really last?
Generally, without any preservative, you can expect your urine to be useful for about 2 months if you take good care of it. That's kind of the 50% ammonia point where it's just time to throw it out. It's not going to scare deer off because, of course, the deer urinates in the woods, it breaks down, becomes ammonia too. It's just that they know it's old. They're not going to react to it the same way. If a doe in heat, urinated in this spot, 6 weeks ago, what does the deer care? So I would say if you got that 2 weeks with a little bit of preservative, natural preservatives in it, you can get 90 days out of it if you take really good care of it. Leave it in your truck, in hot weather, and you're probably looking at less than a week. So you do want to take care of it. If you're really serious about this, you might want to bring a cooler with you, keep a couple ice packs in there, keep your fresh urine in there, or look to a synthetic product.
Now, do you have any synthetic products?
Yeah, we came out with a new synthetic product here. The story behind it is, we're in Wisconsin here, and the CWD has caused a lot of regulations here. And in other states, they've actually banned real urine. Alaska was the first. I believe it's Virginia has it. I think Pennsylvania has a few zones that you can't use it. So we decided to look into providing synthetic urine. When we did that, we, first thing like anybody else, we pulled out what was on the market. And I have to say, we were extremely disappointed just by our own sniffer test, disappointed what we found when we sent it to the lab, and just disappointed in its overall use. In fact, we barely used any of it because after just the initial, smelling it ourselves and then bringing it to the lab, a lot of it seems to be using that old internet recipe there that you see. Oh, you can make synthetic urine, put some urea in some water, scoop it off the top, throw in a couple cups of ammonia, and you got synthetic deer urine. Does it have a couple of ingredients in common with deer urine? Sure. I mean, there's urea and deer urine and ammonia in smaller quantities. But saying that that's a true synthetic deer urine is kind of like saying a gourmet devil's food cake is soaking some flour in some water.
And we know how that works out, at least when I bake.
You got to have all the ingredients there, and there's a lot more to urine, than just those few basic ingredients. Fortunately, the big box company is the leading company. In fact, was the worst of them all, and to us, it smelled kind of like a really heavy ammonia smell. A little bit of bubble soap. It was nothing like urine. Trust me, I'm sitting here smelling deer urine for the next 3-4 months here. That's all I do. I know deer urine and what it smells like, and none of this stuff that we found really smelled anything, even to me, like real urine. So if I can tell the difference, I guarantee you a buck out in the woods can tell the difference. So that's why we started with a ground-up approach. We took some of the freshest deer urine we had here in one of our batches, and we sent it to the lab to be absolutely cloned as close as possible in a product that didn't need any special handling, refrigeration, anything like that. And that's when we came up with our product.
And what's that product called?
Ours is called Lucky 7 Synthescent Dough and Heat Plus. And like I said, we came up with a near perfect replica of a synthetic dough urine at the peak of estrus. And even beyond that, I mean, you can make synthetic products, and they're great. They don't rot, and they don't need special handling, and they're easy to care for, all that stuff, and you can just carry a bottle around, and if you have some left over this year, it's good next year. Though it does become a little bit, if you think about it, it becomes a little bit of a sterile thing. So what we did beyond that is the plus in our product is we added an additional biological ingredient to it that truly makes it like a living being. It truly is alive. It's like real urine that the deer will come up and they will smell it, and they are absolutely fooled into thinking, this is a doe at the peak of estrus, really urinated here. When you take it and you smell it, take a whiff of it and compare it to some real urine, you'll see exactly what we're talking about. This stuff looks, it's just like real urine.
Brian, take a break now. Let's talk about application. Everybody, I can remember the first buck I ever killed a long time ago with my bow, and I had put up cotton balls. I put some dough and heat drops on the cotton ball. Actually, put it in the corner of a cornfield. I was sitting just on the outside between the cornfield and the swamp. Blah blah blah. The buck came in. He walked right up to it, sniffed it, and I shot him. He was completely clueless. And so why do these scents really work, and how should we do it correctly, but how should we not do it so we're not messing up ourselves?
With these estrus-based ones, of course, you're looking at the buck and his sex drive. To pass his genes on, he needs to breed with as many does as possible. Hopefully he's the big buck still walking around when he does that. And that's what you're playing on. You're trying to get him to think, hey, there is a ready doe nearby. I need to hang around this spot until I find her so that I can, pass on my genes. There's various different ways of doing that. And, some of my favorites are just the standard felt pad. When I go out in the woods, I use a real urine product on some felt pads. I like to hang them above scrapes. I like to put the crystal gel in the scrape to, give it a little bit of time to last there to get that blast of scent into that deer's face. And then I leave there. The felt pads I take with me when I go, but, leave the crystal gel in there. And then I also like scent drippers. But lately with the weather we've had here, it's been warm the last couple seasons. I've really started using more synthetics in the drippers. I find that because it's out in the sun, I may be there a week before I get back and hunt it. The real urine is getting kind of iffy by that point, and the synthetic in the dripper just avoids that problem altogether.
So let's talk about a couple of different setups. One, we're at a funnel. There's a creek to our right. The cornfields are up a little hill. To our left, and we're just coming off the hill, and we're in a funnel. And there's rubs and scrapes, so I know they're traveling through here all the time. When should we start putting out doe and heat scent? And then do we put it 360 around the stand? Kind of walk us through the correct application.
Okay, what I like to do with the urine products there is first it depends on what time of year I'm hunting. A lot of people don't realize it, but a lot of the older does will go into estrus before the younger ones, and that can happen around that October 10th time frame. Mother Nature giving the older animals a little bit of a head start. I've had a lot of success, hunting it like a mini rut. One of the things I like to do hunting any of the ruts is I like to find the areas the does are. I'm not looking around for secret buck trails at that point or trying to figure out where that lonesome buck is. He's trying to, if there's does and heat in the area and you know it, he's trying to find them. So you might as well find them too. And, if you know where the does are bedding, if you know where the travel routes where the does are most frequently, know where they're feeding. If you can find one of those areas, the heck with looking for where the buck himself is, he's going to be where the does are. One of the setups I like to do is, and one thing with all these scents is that, don't get me wrong, you must always control your own scent too. We currently don't offer any scent-free products because, scent elimination products. There's so many good ones on the market now. There's not much we can offer to you in that area. So, pick one. There's a myriad of them out there that work very well, and make sure that you do everything you can. Maybe use the new ozone products that they have, their electronics, to keep your clothes scent-free. Then use your scent-free product to keep your own smell down, and still play the wind like you would any other day. You no matter how much you try, no matter how much you try and cover it, no matter how much you try and eliminate it, there's always going to be a little scent left on you. So always make sure you play that wind. And what I like to do with those scents is I like to put my scents not directly downwind, but out at 45-degree angles from downwind, so I catch those deer as they're passing. Definitely got to be shooting lanes in there too. But what I'm trying to do, if they're going too far, I want to try and attract those deer into me, have them come in toward my stand before they cross directly downwind. Because again, no matter, everybody's had it happen. You've had a deer, you thought you were scent free, and you might have chewed the chlorophyll gum, and you might have had charcoal all over, and he came in downwind and he busted you anyway.
Yes, it happens to all of us, and if you say it doesn't, then Ozonics does have some great testimonies out there, but it does happen, folks. So what you're saying is, now, so the wind's coming. My stand, I'm thinking one of my stands looks to the west, pretty much quartering. It's quartering. If the wind's coming right on northwest, it's kind of at the 45-degree angle. So where do I put the scent to my left and to my right, and then behind me?
If I'm I'm facing into the wind, ideally, then I'll have some urine that'll be straight in front of me, straight where I'm looking in a range that I can shoot. You're not going to get you're not looking for a deer to approach from that angle because, of course, if the wind's blowing in your face and he's coming from farther than their scent is out, he's not going to pick that up. But he might pick it up as he passes between you and your stand, or on that trail that you've got the scent on. Then I have behind me on my shoulders and two other shooting lanes at 45-degree triangles. That's where I like to put the other scents, just to, like I said, to try and intercept them before they get directly, downwind to me, because I there's no way I ever hope to hide from them there. And that's usually my setup, is usually a triangle like that. But again, it is very hard to learn to do all these different setups. You have to know the wind, the prevailing winds, and you have to know each individual stand. You add in other obstacles, and sometimes, things aren't perfect. You got to do the best you can.
Yeah, that's for sure. Now, you mentioned a dripper and synthetic. So with your drippers, is that directly in front of you, or where do you set up your dripper?
Usually my dripper is the one I have straight in front of me. I like to keep that one going, and I also use the crystal gel there more than any place else. Usually because I'm trying to keep a deer from getting downwind and maybe trying to confuse his nose best I can when he's anywhere in that range downwind to me. That's where I like to use especially a lot of fresh scent down there, just to keep it going while I'm there, and then I take it out when I'm not there.
And you're using, felt wicks that you just hang from whatever trees are available.
Yeah, there's a lot of those. Any of the felt wicks they have out there, you see them in the bin now for like $1 for like 4,000 of them or whatever they're at the
right.
At the hunting stores right now. Any of them work. They're just felt, and I like the ones that have they have a little twist tie on them, so you can twist tie them to a branch or something like that. And I also like the ones where I can actually take them. They're small enough to dip into the bottle. They'll have it's kind of like usually a pea-shaped. Then that little stem, you can actually dip into the bottle, let it soak up a little here. And I actually hang them on the tree first, take the bottle, soak them, push it up onto that end, let it soak in, pull the bottle off, and move on to the next one.
Yeah, here's a tip for that. Get yourself a really sharp pair of scissors, and if you wicks you get don't fit into the bottleneck, just make them fitted. Just do it. Clip them at an angle till you get the right angle. Now, how much scent do we want to put on that wick?
Like I said, I just dip it right in the bottle and then pull it back out. I don't, just enough that it sucks it on. I'm not pouring it on there because in those areas, I don't want a lot of it on the ground. I do want it up in the air a little bit to catch in the wind, to try and, make a little bit more of a scent cloud, not only to attract deer, but to try and, cover my own scent behind me and stuff. But I think if you go beyond the dripping point and it's dripping on the ground all over, that's probably too much, because at that point it is on the ground in an area you don't really want it.
Okay, and how often do I have to change out the wicks?
Actually, you can keep them for quite some time, as long as you treat them like your urine. You remember, anything you put on that wick is going to spoil as well. So what I like to do is I carry a sandwich bag with me at the end of the day's hunt. I'll pull them down, put them in a sandwich bag, and then throw them in the cooler in the refrigerator with my urine there, and save it till the next time I hunt. And usually I can get a couple of weeks out of a scent pad if I treat it right. Then again, they're also cheap enough if you're worried about it, you throw them away and get some more. So it's kind of whatever just feels best. Sometimes I get some, being busy a lot of times, there are, when I'm going out there, say, the weekend of the rut, I'm not saving it, I'm not using anything used or anything like that. At that point, I'm using the freshest stuff I can get, brand new wicks, all that stuff. But if I'm hunting, that October 10th early rut, where the action cannot be, it's not always as hot as it is the other times, then I might reuse that stuff.
What about drags? Have you ever used drags, and how would you apply your attractant scents to drags?
I have used drags. You put them out on a stick or something and drag the scent around to actually, bring it in. There's a lot of theories to that. I'm not big on dragging. I'm trying to get out there mostly scent-free. I'm trying to get out there quickly and quietly. I don't want to hang around in my hunting spot, so I don't do a lot of dragging personally. But if you get a line, there's a lot of guys that do it, have great success with it. You see them, spoke out like a wheel from their stand, things like that. My land that I own up north is very thick cover. It's marshy with bushes so thick sometimes it takes you 10 minutes to go 10 feet. In those cases, it's just not practical for me to drag a lot anymore. But when I hunt on an occasion I'll hunt the farm or something like that, dragging along a break between a woods and a cornfield, something like that, actually is very successful.
Yeah, and just a sidebar to that. Last year, I wish I videoed, but I'm not a video photographer, so I won't video it. But I started, on my walk-in trail, and and I just had a drag out. I did have your Lucky 7 brand on it, by the way, and I just dragged it right up my trail, right to my stand, and then I hung it, in on a branch. Let's see. To my left, and I just hung it so it would dissipate in the air. And lo and behold, I'm going to say, was he 2.5 years old? He wasn't any older than that. Might have been a little younger. But anyway, he just came like a dog with his nose down.
It's definitely effective.
Yeah, I was just amazed, and I said, "Where's your big brother?" That's all I could say.
Big brother, we want his dad or granddad. Better yet.
Yeah. Better yet, yeah, that would be awesome. But just so folks, you got to try stuff. You got to change it up and try things depending on the situation. And that situation on that stand, it was a perfect setup, and it did work for a young buck coming in.
Yeah, if you're going to do something like that too, again, eliminating your own scent is good for that. So it's good to have a pair of scent-free rubber boots on if you're going to lay a trail, stuff like that. Try not to, get your touching the brush and all that other things too. You're trying to make sure as you drag a scent line along that you're not leaving any of your scent behind as you're doing it.
Yeah, and listeners, if you're hunting in anything, punt rubber boots, and there's a lot of great brands out there. If you're hunting whitetails, you need to wear rubber boots. That's all I'll say, because there's no way in any other product or how they're put together components that will help you more than a good pair of rubber boots. Your thoughts on that, Brian?
That's all I've hunted in for years. Just a cheap old pair of rubber boots, nothing hold. I don't care where you are. Your feet are going to put off some odor. The best thing to hold it in is a pair of rubber boots. That and it keeps you from, if you're slogging through water and all that stuff. Because as soon as you're, that water, you get your boots waterlogged or something like that. That scent's coming out with that water too. I just haven't found anything that works as good as a pair of, the rubber boots I could see somebody wearing at the dairy farm there. They're just perfect. They're easy to get odor off of. If you spray those down with no scent product, they're going to have no scent on them. One piece of warning on some of those rubber boots: if you're using some of the ozone machines there, watch out. Your ozone will eat away the rubber and some other materials there. But again, you shouldn't eat it. Clean them up, keep them, washed down with water, and then put some no scent on them before you go out there, and they're great for being scent-free.
Yeah, and all your dairy farmers out there, or anybody that's been around the farms, chicken or hogs, it doesn't matter. It's the same boots you buy at Big R or Fleet Farm or any place like that. You don't have to spend X hundreds of dollars, on boots. And there's some manufacturers make great boots. I got some of their products, but it comes down, rubber boots work and barn boots are a perfect fit.
And save your money on the boots, but spend it on some good socks.
Yeah, that's for sure. Because once the weather turns, it's interesting trying to keep your feet warm in rubber boots. Now, talk to me about why you started Lucky 7 brand, and give our listeners some background on your hunting experiences with your products.
Well, I've been hunting since I was a kid. I started out bow hunting. Back then here it was legal when you turned 12 years old. I used to go out earlier than that with my father and the neighbor guys, and I'd go out and sit with them. And as soon as I was old enough to hunt, I had a bow when I was out there. A lot of the products as the years went on, I seen them and I liked playing with them, but I always felt I could do something better. Now, as you may know, I'm a math guy by nature. I'm an engineer. I love numbers, so anything with numbers has to do with it: math, genetics, chemistry. All of it is a hobby of mine in some fashion. So I started playing with some of these scents and the chemistry and that goes with them, and I just knew I could do better than that was out there. It started with our mineral product, Lucky 7 Trace Mineral Attractant. I knew why deer liked it. They like it for the salt. But there's also other things you can do with that. There are other attractants you can add to it to make salt better. There are other things you can put in there, the trace minerals and stuff, to make the deer healthier and not take away from its attraction. There's other things you can do to put the scent, little chemical reactions you can create that put the scent into the air and make it travel long distance in a mineral product, and that's what we do with ours. All those things were just ideas I had. That I had a farm at the time, a family farm to play on. I could do it all year round. Even when it wasn't hunting season, mineral sites are great in the spring. I played with those different things, and I saw what natural things worked. Playing with apples and finding out they make better turkey bait than they do deer bait. Playing with back then with they called it deer cocaine. Seeing how they liked that, but oh boy, we could really improve on that. And that's why I wanted to start it. And the secondary thing was that I had my own daughter. Before I started the company, I was still playing with stuff. I thought, what a better way than to, kill a couple birds with one stone there. I got to show my daughter how to start a business, to run a business, how to have better customer service, how to have great products, how to care about what you're doing, have a little money to go in her college fund as we did this. So there were quite a few reasons, but in the end, we found that as I got older and stuff, I'd had more things to do. I had less time in the woods. I thought I can help other people and their kids get the most out of the time they could put in the woods. It seemed like a good idea to me, and that's what we did.
Yeah, and how many years have you been doing this, Brian?
Oh, so I started about when I was 12. I started hunting and I started playing with that stuff. I just happened to be I'm a real math geek. I mean, chess club, math team, kind of guy there. I was very good at school, very good at numbers. So I really started right away. I always thinking of how I could do something better. And, it became with those simple deer attractants when I was a kid. That became, once I got older and had, my education behind me and stuff and even more background in it, I wanted to perfect it at that point. It was a good way to make money. Who doesn't want to make money in their hobby, if you can? It just, everything comes together right there. It's great to help other people. And I can just, it's kind of as an aside, I work with, Heroes Hunt for Veterans. I donate some to them every year, and being able to help them and seeing the smiles it puts on their faces when they get those big deer and help them out, it's just worth it. Why wouldn't you do it?
And thanks for that. Say, how do people get a hold of you? Please give us your website, your email address. I recommend people not giving their phone out unless it's an 800 number, but tell people how to get a hold of you.
The easiest way is to go to www.NelsonCreekOutdoors.com. Our link to our store is there. We have links to our Facebook page, links to Twitter, links to YouTube videos that we make to help people use our products better, and reviews of other people's products as well, trail cameras and stuff. And then, starting to combine the two together, how to use a scent with a trail camera, stuff like that. So basically from that main site, NelsonCreekOutdoors.com, you can pretty much find everything we do online.
Let's talk about, okay, you're in Wisconsin and you're in central Wisconsin, but you got Honeyland up north. What's the prime rut dates that you've seen? Now, you said October 10th is the beginning, that you've seen some activity where some older does come in the heat. Then there's a major rut, and then there's a second rut where some young yearlings that are sexually mature go into estrus and they get bred late in the year. So let's talk about those three specific dates that you found in your career.
The main rut here in Wisconsin it differs a little bit between the way up north and way down here by a couple days. I always go by the weekend closest to November 7th. That works out pretty good for us in Wisconsin. That's when the rut's going to be. It is triggered by phases of the moon. When they go into peak estrus and stuff. So if you get yourself a moon phase calendar, look at the weekend of the 7th, you can find the absolute peak if you want to.
So you use just the moon phases, and if it's up or under or full or waning or waxing and all that, so you put that into the process and then work out the factors?
Yeah, and you can find out pretty well within a day or so of when the peak rut is going to happen. The other way to do it is just to figure out when you can get some time off work to go and do it. That's probably more important than the moon or anything else. But really here it's not that difficult. The weekend of the 7th tends to be the peak of the rut here, and it's usually within 3-4 days of that every year. And then those other alternative ruts just back up or go forward about 28, 29 days, and you're gonna find those extra ruts are gonna happen at those times too.
Well, we're coming up to the time that you can give shout outs to your pro staff or any other people you want to, or people that support you, or you did mention the Heroes Hunts. So take a couple minutes and just wrap up the show with some shout outs.
Again, Heroes Hunt, I can't say enough. Heroes Hunt for veterans. They take out disabled veterans. It started as a small group, and it's really grown. They're taking out, they're out almost all the time at this point, taking out veterans hunting. We're lucky enough to be able to have gotten far enough where we can donate, send to them every year, and help them out with other events. They're a great organization. Definitely look them up on the internet there and visit their site. And if you can, make a donation because it's really worth it. The other person right now is, as I mentioned before, we actually started the recording here. One of the guys he's almost unofficial pro staff there because you don't see him on a lot of videos or anything. Jim Schmidt. He just had triple bypass surgery here this past week. Here he's home and doing well, thankfully. I give a shout out to him. Without him, boy, there's a lot of stuff that wouldn't exist. In fact, one of our hottest products right now, Whitetail Miracle, is a lot due to him. He has a farm not far from here, kind of on the eastern border of Wisconsin, kind of in a suburby area, and we tested a lot of the food-based scents out on his property there, and doctoring up different things to work on to see if it was there. Luckily you could bait over there in Fond du Lac County, so he was a good one to have because as they slowly close the state up, it's getting harder and harder to find spots to do it. But he, like I said, he shot some deer over our products there. In fact, last year I think it was a 10-pointer he got with the crossbow, hunting with at least one of the recipes of what became Whitetail Miracle. And without his invaluable testing and comparing, and he's our blind study guy. We don't tell him what we're giving him. He gets a couple different samples of stuff. What do you like, A, B? And he's done a really good job for us. So we definitely, hopefully he's back out here hunting pretty soon.
Well, Brian Sparks, thank you so much, and wishing you at Nelson Creek Outdoors and the Lucky 7 brand all the success this fall. And hey, folks, if you use it, go to Brian's webpage and get his email address. And what is your email address anyway?
Mine is Brian, Brian, at NelsonCreekOutdoors.com. You can also use on our store site there and on our regular website, there are contact forms to reach me, so you can use one of those as well.
I'm thinking of putting out, the products that work so you can put it up on your website as testimonials to the success of it. And I look forward to harvesting a mature buck this year over those crystals because I'm enamored with them. I still can see that buck just lighting up and he's stomping those things and he's just going, what is going on? He couldn't figure it out.
Yeah, they have been successful, and oddly enough, there's nothing else on the market like them. It's kind of a unique product we've got there. I thought they'd be cloned. They've been out for a couple of years, but no, we're still the only ones with them.
Well, Brian, again, thank you on behalf of all my listeners. And we went over 70,000 downloads on iTunes last weekend. So we're growing, and we are the fastest growing whitetail podcast in North America. So you're a big part of its success, and I'm wishing you well.
All right. Thank you much, Bruce.
Make sure you tune in for the next episode of Whitetail Rendezvous. We're going to visit with Ace Jerry Luciano. Now, Ace is a good friend from Wisconsin. He used to live around the Beaver Dam area, and he's a great hunter, big time on youth, big supporter of SCI. and he recently moved to Arizona. So he's got some different takes on hunting Coues deer versus whitetails, and some really good thoughts about how, as hunters, we all need to band together, like become a band of brothers. So listen to the show. I think you're going to like it.
Thanks for joining us. Be sure to tune in tomorrow for another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous, where you can listen and learn from the experts so you can be more successful on your next hunt. Until next time, listen, learn, and succeed.